in qualifiers, there was no excuse. It was a perfectly sunny day. Everybody was on an apples to apples, and they still didn't perform. And that's what I think is making me the most nervous. You know, a bad call, that can happen. But in qualifiers, there was none of those things. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We are back this week, and we just had the Australian Grand Prix, first race of the season. Lots of big things coming out of it. Obviously, the weather played a huge factor. We had lots of rookies on the grid, lots of retirements. There was lots of calls, good ones and bad ones, and we are here this week to discuss all of it. I can't be more excited. We got some real F1 racing coming back. This is unreal. What did you guys think of the race? And let's talk about a couple of the key points here. So the first one, obviously, I'm a big fan of Lewis Hamilton. Let's discuss Lewis's first race in red as a driver for the Scuderia Ferrari. Let's talk about that, Ed. What's your thoughts?
Actually, before we start, I want to give a shout out to Dave Sachs and the team of F1 NTO for having us at Trinity Commons this last weekend, and it was a fantastic experience, and looking forward to working with them a little bit more in the future, and maybe tying up F1 NTO, F1 True North, and hopefully possibly even the Scuderia Ferrari Club of Toronto. And
Love it.
And on that note, Ferrari, man, Lewis Hamilton had a hard time adjusting. And it was expected, really. Like, new team, new car, new everything, a new engineer that wouldn't shut up and kept on saying the exact same thing to him twice. And he told his engineer, "Leave me alone. Say it once. I got you." And and on top of that, just to stack everything all together, the rain that came down, the uncertainty of what tire to be on, should we stay on slicks? They stayed on slicks. They made a big mistake of that, and it also affected our boy Charles Leclerc. But yeah, man, it's just everything was just against Lewis Hamilton to maybe bag the win or even make it a podium. At some point, they were 1 and 2, and the whole crowd where we were at Trinity Commons, they were losing their minds. But yeah, man, like, reality sets in that it wasn't his best outing, but you know what, everything was stacked against him at that point.
So the race was phenomenal. It was so entertaining. It was like a perfect race for the season opener, right? Great crowd and just great atmosphere. In regards to Ferrari, man, I thought this year is going to be different, just like every year. We say this is our year, it's going to be different. Nope, they go back to doing the same exact stuff, making bad calls with engineers, with drivers. And, as basically what Ed said, at one point they were 1 and 2. I was really rooting for a podium. That would have been a phenomenal start. But yet again, they choose to stay on slicks. Super bad call when it was essentially pouring rain. And Ferrari being Ferrari again, just making bad calls, kind of, what you said, Drew, prior before the episode started as well. When the race happens, testing is out the window, essentially. What happened in testing and what happened in the race were completely different results too. So great race, disappointing for Ferrari. I really feel for the boys at Ferrari, and I thought they're going to do a little bit better.
100%. And you know what? You guys brought up a great point that, like, the race wasn't what it needed to be, right? Like, Ferrari obviously dropped the ball. They made a bad call when it came to the engineers and for strategy in terms of putting the tires on when it started to rain a little bit heavier. But in qualifiers, there was no excuse. It was a perfectly sunny day. Everybody was on an apples to apples, and they still didn't perform. And that's what I think is making me the most nervous. It's not listen, shit happens in the rain. It is what it is. No one's mad at them. A bad call, that can happen. But in qualifiers, there was none of those things. There was nobody getting stuck behind traffic. There was none of that. So when you're qualifying and landing on the fourth row, like, that's not a good look. You know what I mean? And not to jump ahead at all, but like, Max Verstappen has a subpar car. and that guy is still putting it on the podium, right? Now that's a combination of, a little bit of luck, but a lot of bit of skill, right? And a skill not only with him in the cockpit, but also the team. The team is making good calls. Okay, well, let's move on from Ferrari. Obviously, they struggled in the first race, and that sucks. But it's a stepping stone, learning lessons. Everything is. I pray that it's only going up from here. But let's move on to McLaren, because I think that the boys at McLaren did an absolutely fantastic job, and they executed like a near perfect weekend. And as far as I'm concerned, like, the little mishap that Piastri had, that it was just sheer dumb luck, because Lando did the same little skip off in turn 2 or whatever that was into the gravel trap. And ultimately he wasn't able to recover fast enough. And Lando, when he returned back to the track, just kind of skidded off a little bit differently and was able to recover a little bit better. That being said, I want to hear what you have on your favorite team, Mr. Ed.
Oh my god, dude. The moment that Piastri, I wanted him to win, like home race, strong car. It was like a recipe for success at that point. Although I will say, team orders, that was called on him, I don't know, was kind of sketchy. He did have a little bit more pace than Lando, and that kind of pushed Lando as well. But Zach Brown called team orders. But yeah, he was flying. Both the papayas were flying. The only hitch to that weekend was just the off track incident. Their pace was just something else, and yeah, I hope that they continue. I hope it's not indicative of what happened with Red Bull last year, wherein they started real strong at the start of the season, few races, bagged a few wins, and then maybe crap it out after the summer break. As we all know, that the flexi wings are, I think they've been accelerated to make the changes a little bit already in China for the next race. So we'll see how the papayas actually respond to that. But was a good race all in all. Just feel bad for Piastri, man. Like, he should have won that race. Honestly, he should have.
Yeah, so same. I agree with that. It's a really shame what happened to Piastri. Happy for Lando. It was a very rare mistake that we got to see from Max when Piastri got to overtake him. That was a very cool thing to see live, essentially, because Max is not the type of to make those mistakes. Yeah, I was rooting for McLaren. I was really hoping for a 1-2. To Ed's point, I think McLaren this year is going to be like Red Bull was the last couple of years. I think they're still an upward trajectory. Not saying that Red Bull is crap or anything, but I think, like, we all discussed, Red Bull kind of reached, I think, the peak and the top, and McLaren still, I feel they have space and capabilities to improve and be faster and make better calls. So I hope their trajectory keeps going up. I hope Piastri and Lando both show up on podiums together, and looking forward to more exciting races with them.
I think McLaren's the team to beat, right? Like, they came out to see to preseason testing, and they were absolutely dominant. They get to the first race, qualies were dominant, and then they got into the race, and I would argue that if there was no rain, that they made almost perfect calls, right? Lando pitted, Oscar pitted. Even with that little mishap, Oscar knew or had the heads up or the team orders in order to delay a little bit coming into the pit so that they could double stack without any incident. And that, to me, is just showing the progression that these guys have in making the right calls, in getting the strategy. Like, all the back of house is starting to work just as hard as the front of house. And as long as those two guys stay out of the wall, stay out of each other, they will win. I think we're going to have the first part of that, the stay out of each other's way, because I think both of those guys are very quick, and I think they are their own worst enemies. So that's where I kind of sit with McLaren. I hope you guys agree. I think they're the front runners for the W this year. But what
Honestly,
does that
like
mean?
I fear though that this might be a Lewis Hamilton Nico Rosberg situation.
It could be.
Could be this year. Like I see it. I see that they both have strong cars now. Remember during the height of Mercedes in 2016 with both Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, they were duking it out. So this could be that year too, because last year it was already starting. We all talked about it. The team orders, papaya rules, and all that stuff. That's still gonna happen this year, but I don't think they're Oscar's gonna allow for Lando to just run away with it. I don't think so.
So you think Oscar's gonna start fighting back Lando a little bit,
He's not
making
gonna
some
fight
trouble?
back. No, it's not gonna fight back, but he's gonna race. 'Cause the kid is quick. Let's be honest. And Lando's been in his seat, finally got into a new car, but there's some hesitation there. He's always had hesitation, whereas Piastri last year he didn't frickin' hesitate. He was gonna go for it no matter what.
I'm with Ed on this one. I
Yeah.
think Lando has the skill set to be a champion. I don't know if he has the grit to be a champion.
Yes.
And I think Oscar has that grit. I think he is a much more head-on straight version of Verstappen.
Oh yes.
I think he has
like
the
that.
aggression
I
of
like that.
Verstappen, but I think he makes less aggressive decisions. That's
Silent
where I see
killer,
Oscar.
dude.
Yes,
Guy's a silent
100%.
killer. Oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough about McLaren. We think they're going to win. Move on. I want to talk about the boys at Red Bull.
Oh my god.
They had a little bit of a polarizing weekend, almost like a same but different. You know, we made a lot of calls about Liam Lawson and where he was going to sit and what was going to happen in terms of his performances. You know, obviously we only got one race in the bag. It was a little bit of a wet show, you know, for lack of better terms. But yeah, I want to hear what you guys got on Red Bull and, you know, Max pulling out a podium where that was absolutely a masterclass in driving in the wet with a subpar car. And Liam Lawson, well, let's hope he's not showing his true colors. What do you got on that one, Ed?
I told you guys. I told you last season before all of this, you know, the issue with Sergio Perez, Checo with his seat. They should have taken Yuki. Honestly, they should have brought Yuki up there. Like the pace, you know, his consistency, and like you now see the difference between someone who has gone 3 or 4 seasons at this point. I think 4 seasons. This is 4th season, right? Yuki,
Fifth, I
5th
think.
season.
I
So
think
4
fifth.
4 full seasons being a driver compared to someone who's done it like half a season and some, you know, some races. You see it. And I I feel bad for Liam Lawson, but man, I don't know if you guys saw what Helmut Marko said about him on Instagram, and yeah, it was a shameful outing for Liam Lawson, and the again very polarizing, as you said, Drew. You know, Max Verstappen is in a crappy car. Let's be honest, like it is a very subpar car right now compared to the front runners, that is McLaren, and possibly even the Mercedes guys too, because he willed that car into submission and brought it into P2. And with everything that could have happened, he just willed that car. And Liam Lawson has the same car, and we all said that he has the same grit, he has the same, you know, fight in him. Didn't show. It didn't show.
You
I don't
know
think he's
what?
gonna last.
I'm gonna disagree with you, Ed, on this one. I think right now it's still a little bit too early to tell. First race, obviously, pressure's on, rainy weather, bad luck, all of those factors. Now, having said that, I think Red Bull did overlook an opportunity with Yuki. because Yuki started in P5, and I forgot what Lawson started at, somewhere near the bottom. That shows true colors. I'm starting to really, really feel sorry for Yuki. Like, what the hell is he doing there at Racing Bulls? He's way better than that 5th season right now. I really hope he gets a solid car or team next year. In regards to Liam Lawson, I think his true colors are going to come. I think this was just bad luck, bad weather. Good job to Max. He brought it home to P2. But Liam just did not show his full potential. Again, I'm going to kind of blame that on the weather, the nerves, first race, a bunch of factors. But yeah, I think he has way more to show, and I think he's going to perform well.
Yeah, just to add to that, Tomas, like Lawson came in qualifying 18th. Tsunoda came in P5. And then the race result, as we all know, Liam Lawson spun out, so it's a DNF, and Tsunoda came in at 12th. But the entire race, Tsunoda was in averaging between 5th all the way to 6th or 7th. He was averaging, he was staying in there. After all of the kerfuffle, yes, he didn't make it to the points, but he finished the race.
But to your point again, Tsunoda is doing 5 seasons of this, or he's on the 5th season, right? So Liam Lawson, you got to give him some time and a little bit of slack.
And let's also factor into the fact that, like, he's never raced at Albert Park. Lawson's never raced at Albert Park.
Yeah.
And he was running a different setup than Max Verstappen, right? The aero was affected. And, there's a lot of inexperience, poor judgment calls, all that kind of stuff. And, he lost control. He was out on slicks. It was just a mess, right? And, like, to give Lawson a pass or fail grade based on this, I think is way, way, way too early in the season. He is a quick driver. He wouldn't have got the seat. Listen, does Red Bull make some bad calls? Sure. Do they also make some epic calls? Max Verstappen. Yes, they do make some epic calls. They've picked a couple of good drivers in their time. Let's just sit on it for a second. Let Lawson, the cream will rise to the top. He either will or won't be. And like we said last week, Yuki's right there. He's not that far. So if Lawson keeps shitting the bed, they don't have to stick around with it. He's right there. Correct. And I think Lawson would be great in that other seat? 100%. 100%. Okay, well, enough.
You're on mute, Drew.
Where did that stop?
On that note.
Oh, on that note, we are absolutely done with Red Bull. They're either going to win or they're going to lose, just like every other team, right? Let's go on to Williams. I know our boy Ed has been wildly excited about what they got going on over at Williams, to the point where I think he secretly has a man crush on James Vowles. So let's let our boy Ed, our Williams professional and student of the Williams racing team, take this one.
Just for the record, Ed was wearing his Williams jacket at Trinity Commons, so he was really pumped up for them, rooting for them.
Yeah, dude, I was all Williams that evening.
No doubt.
And man, I know Tomas can attest to this. When Carlos Sainz spun out, I was the loudest growl in the entire Trinity Commons, because why? Like, I don't know what happened. It's just beyond me at that point. But you know what? Alex Albon, quali, he was fantastic. He was just like on a different level, 1.4 seconds faster than his outing last year alone. And had it been that Carlos Sainz didn't crash, I would probably say that it would be total vengeance against Ferrari, because if Carlos Sainz did not crash, they would have more points in drivers. They have more points in constructors over Ferrari. Can you imagine? And like, James Vowles is definitely doing something. And you know what? One of his videos that he released on social media, like, he admitted it, that he knew that he was coming into a team that was going to definitely struggle. And they have to break a few eggs in order for you to make that omelet. And they did break a lot of eggs last year. I mean, Logan Sargent and Alex Albon and Franco Colapinto destroying cars. But you know what? The proof is in the pudding. look at how they performed in the race. Look at how they performed over at testing. They're on a different level, guys. They are going to lead the mid pack. I'm telling you right now, they are going to lead the mid pack at this point.
That's a lot of food talk, Ed. We went from proof is in the pudding to breaking eggs and making omelets.
Yes.
You know what? I like Williams. I think they are the dark horse. I think there's something that, especially with a move like Carlos Sainz getting over there, I hope they start breaking less eggs and making more omelets because unfortunately, Ed, the price of eggs and the price of chassis are wildly different. And so when these guys break eggs, aka crash cars, it's very costly. And for a team like Williams, the funding is not there. So these guys need to break less eggs and win more races, or at least get more podiums and more points. That being said, this was a great outing. And I think if Carlos Sainz had a little bit more time in that car, he might be doing a little bit better. But I'm all here for Williams. What do you got on that, Thomas?
Yeah, so I agree with you guys. Williams is definitely, I could see them in mid pack. Albon brought it to home to P5, amazing. In regards to Sainz, again, I'm gonna push it off to unfortunate event. New car and new team. Don't know if you heard anything, guys, or if you can confirm or deny. Because from what I heard, apparently he got like a little surge in the car. That's why he spun out. So not exactly if that's true or if it was actually driver error or something with the car. Yeah, again, just bad weather, new team, with time, with races as they're going to go on through the season. I see them really competing mid-pack, fifth, fourth, even for podium places. I really do see that, and I am rooting for them.
That's very aggressive to see them in fourth place, but crazier things have happened. It is possible. It's possible. We have to keep in mind too that this was a wet race and things didn't go as planned. Because I don't think that if everybody played ball, like the Ferraris, etc., like those guys are just pushing Williams further and further down that list. And Alpine, you got Haas, and I think that all of those guys at the back of the pack are going to be in situations like this where they start scoring a little bit of points as the gap spreads from the front of the grid to the back of the grid, or as the gap tightens, because I think the fastest car and the slowest car is not that much of a difference compared to where they are at the beginning of the regulations, right? So I think that there's going to be a lot more of these, couple of spin outs, a guy here, a guy there, and all of a sudden these backmarker teams are up in the points. So I think that point spread is really going to come down a little bit. But moving on, one team we have not talked about yet is Mercedes. And the likes of Mr. Kimi Antonelli, Toto's homeboy, comes off and throws in huge W's in his F1 debut as a full-time driver at Mercedes. So what else you guys got to say about that? That was an incredible drive. Like to go from the back of the pack all the way up and finish P4 is incredible.
Okay, thanks again to Dave Sachs for being able to let us even enjoy the new F1 Premium. I was able to watch the battle between it was Antonelli versus was that Alex Albon, and even before that, as he was making his climb into the top places, he was already in the points. This kid can drive, guys. This kid can drive. He was smooth in the rain. He was smooth in his transitions. This kid can drive. Toto's right. Toto was absolutely right. And on top of that, George also held his own. He stuck in there he could have, they could have done something as stupid as what, Ferrari did, or also different issues with tire selection, or they could have held the teams back, or they could have held the drivers back. But no, everything played just like perfectly for them. Luck came into play also with Kimi Antonelli, but the result was just fantastic. And even looking at the team standings right now, they're at par with McLaren. Both 27 points. They weren't here last year. They're ahead. I mean, first race of the season, fine, relax. But they're ahead of Red Bull right now. They're ahead of Ferrari. Like, let's go.
Yeah, so for Mercedes, Russell 3, Antonelli 4. I did not see Antonelli finishing in the points, honestly. He genuinely surprised me a lot with his drive for being a rookie in Albert Park in the rain. Wow, just phenomenal drive from him. Kudos to him. I did not have, like I said, I did not have high hopes for him, but he held his own, man. If this is what he can do in a bad race with this kind of weather and 30% of the grid DNFing, wow, he has my vote. He definitely showed me in this race he can drive. Mercedes also made the right calls. Wow, I'm looking forward to what else he can do.
That's it, right? And as far as I'm concerned, Kimi's taken an early W on all those rookies, right? We're going to get into that, in a few seconds here, but I think there's a lot of pressure that got taken off of Kimi after that first race because he proved that he does deserve to be there. And all the talks of people saying he's too young, too inexperienced, whatever. Listen, Toto doesn't make a lot of wrong calls. He knows what he's doing. You don't win that many championships by accident. He makes a few good calls. So he obviously sees something in Kimi that nobody else did. And he jumped on him early and got him, groomed him, did everything he needed to get him into a seat and then give him a car to be able to perform. And he did. And that's awesome. And like you said, Thomas, to be in Albert Park in the rain, that's not easy, especially in a race debut. That's an absolutely incredible feat from a young guy. And I'm very much looking forward to see what that guy has. And Georgie Porgy too, man. You can say what you want about George, but guy stepped up when he needed to. Mercedes made a couple of great calls, and that allowed them to show what they have when they have a car that works. And their car is performing over and above what it was last year. And it's kind of, starting off where they left off. And it's all good things for Mercedes. But speaking of Kimi Antonelli and the rookies on the grid, we had some big winners and some big losers. So, Ed, what do you got for biggest winners and biggest losers of the rookie category this week?
Oh my God! Well, biggest winners. That's easy. That's Antonelli, 100%. And let's not forget too. We didn't even mention this too for the race. Antonelli spun out, still got P4. Okay, so it just shows. The biggest loser for me for the rookies, I would say Isaac Hatcher. Man, it's just, I felt bad for the kid. I'm rooting for that kid. Spinning out on a formation lap was just ouch. Ouch, real ouch. And yeah, I know I loved what Lewis Hamilton's father, Anthony Hamilton, when he approached Isaac Hatcher and right after the race, because he felt bad for the kid, because it's just first race, nerves and everything, here we go. And then really bad weather. Everything was going against him too, like everyone else in the grid. But that's the wrong way to start your F1 career. Is to crash out on a formation lap. So feel bad for the kid, but yeah, we'll see in the next few races and see how he fares out in China.
So I'm with that on this one for winners and losers. Antonelli, hands down, is a winner. Hadjar, man, to Ed's point, when he crashed, I was kind of like, oh, another rookie crash, sucks to be him. And then I saw Lewis Hamilton's dad come up to him and, give him that hug. And then something struck a chord with me. It's like, you remember when I watch Formula One, I treat all drivers as older, more mature. They know what they're doing. But man, this kid is what, I think 20 years old. So he's still a kid. And for something like that to happen to him, first race, new team, rain, formation lap, spin out, nerves, it's worst case scenario, right? So it really struck a chord when Anthony Hamilton did that to Hadjar. And that he's unfortunately the loser of the race. But on another note, what Helmut Marko did too. I don't know if you guys heard what he said about him. Basically, how, he was crying or trying not to cry. How Marco essentially said it was kind of embarrassing and unneeded to, did not need to be shown, which, I kind of get. Okay, you're an F1 driver, but man, like, give the kid some slack. It's not cool. Helmut Marko did his own fair share of BS, and that, we talked about this before. And I think he sometimes just needs to STFU and, kind of keep it on the DL. But I'm glad, people and people like Anthony Hamilton came to support him and basically told him to keep his nose up, and, hopefully better races are going to be on the horizon.
Yeah, you know what? Like, it sucks. You can say it 1,000 different ways, but like, it's never fun. Like, your first race, there's already too much pressure on you, and hats off to Isaac Hadjar for doing what he had to do. It's the embrace with the Anthony Hamilton and that whole thing. It was all cute. It is what it is. Do I think that Helmut Marko was a little bit offside there? Yeah, 100%. Is that like the last racist shit out of that guy's mouth, or offside shit out of his mouth? No, definitely not. That guy's an absolute animal on the best day, right? But it is what it is. But we still got Bortoletto, and we still have Jack Doohan, and we still have Lawson, and they all suck too. So, it really wasn't that great of an outing. I think Kimi was the only one that showed up in a big, big way. And, I think that just further proves that, it's a combination of making the right calls and picking the right drivers. And Toto at Mercedes has done that, right? And do I think that Bortoletto and Doohan and Hadjar and Lawson are out? No, definitely not. They've got their first race under their belt. The next race will be better. And then they got 21 more after that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's what it's going to be. It's just like there's a lot of nerves running through these guys, right? Like you said, Thomas, like, these are young guys. Some of them have and some of them haven't won anything in a big way. Isaac Hadjar, Bortoletto, Jack, like, these guys are all cream of the crop, right? Like, this is where, because then you got Ollie Behrman. Then you got, at least he finished the race. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to celebrate small victories, right? Like,
Yeah.
at least he finished the race. And then you got who's the other kid? Oscar Piastri, right? Like, that guy came out of Formula 2, and he was the winning guy coming out of Formula 2 with an absolutely remarkable season with an F2 win. And that's where these guys are coming from, right?
Yeah.
And Oscar wasn't the greatest on his first race, but like, look where he's sitting now. So you just got to let these guys kind of settle in, gel with the team, figure out where things are going, and then work with it.
Well, I just want to add to, like, in terms of results, let's say, if you look at the race in general, like, yes, Isaac Hadjar was the first one to go, and then the rookies all, like, kind of started, losing out. But if you look at qualifying, he's the fastest out of all the rookies. He's the one that made it into Q2, and that says a lot. Like, even if we're saying that he lost out in the start of the race, or he is the biggest loser for all of the rookies, he's the fastest right now. So, I mean, we'll see how Bortoletto, the current reigning F2 champion, would will the Kick Sauber Stake F1 team, and that horrible car that even Hulkenberg cannot even say good things about. He was even surprised to say they were able to finish the race. So, like, it's gonna be, it's gonna be a fantastic season, guys. I am looking forward to China.
So one thing I wanted to quickly touch upon, besides Stake Sauber being a horrible car, another team that kind of stood out to me this weekend was Haas. Two new drivers again, or one rookie, one new driver for the team. And I don't know, again, if it was a combination of the track, the weather, new team and everything, but they seem to be, at least during this race, they seem to be back on their old self again, finishing last. Granted, they finished, right? They brought it home, I think. No, did they? Yes, they did.
They did, both of them. Yeah,
both of them. Yeah.
So, I'll give them that, but again, being last is like back to their old ways. I was not expecting that. I did expect them to finish a little bit higher. So that was a little bit disappointing. Again, I'm going to brush it off as, new team, new drivers, the weather. Hopefully it's not going to continue like this, but just kind of like concerning a little bit.
Oh,
It is concerning.
100%.
I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that. Like I had a higher hopes for Haas, and I don't know if it was just because of that sick new livery that they're rocking, or the fact that they have 2 new drivers. I don't know. I had higher expectations for Haas, and then, like you said, man, they went back to their old ways. And it's still early, right? We got 1 race down, and we're going to China this weekend for a North American 3 a.m. race, which is wild. But I've been told that we will be back at Trinity Commons with F1 and TO for this Saturday, the Chinese Grand Prix.
Actually, no, they're not gonna do Trinity Common, and that's why I precursored it with possible connection with the Scuderia Ferrari Club of Toronto, because we might actually do it over there. Talk to Juan Carlos, and yeah, looks like we might actually watch it over there, because the club owner, I don't think is going to open at like 3 a.m. in the morning.
They will not, sir.
They will
I thought
not.
they may have had some special thing that they had going on. No. Okay.
Initially, after speaking with Dave, that it wasn't going to be a thing. But yeah, I made the connections work, and I think I talked to Juan Carlos about it. He was down for the situation. I'll be there. I don't know. You guys won't be there.
I will not be there, sir. I will not be there, sir.
That's all
My
good.
clock does not do 3 a.m., unfortunately, sir. But yeah, so we got a lot to look forward to. The Chinese Grand Prix is always a wild one, and I'm very much looking forward to it. A, because we got some more racing back to back to back to back, and
Yes.
B, it gives all of these guys that made the worst of a very difficult situation in the rain in Australia, gives them a second shot. Right. And so hopefully the weather holds out. China does tend to be a wet race, though. So
yes, it does.
Hopefully the weather holds out for China, and we can get something going to see what the skill level looks like on these guys. And hopefully Ferrari gets to pick up their socks a little bit.
Can you imagine again? It's going to be like Albert Park and rain and stuff. That would be kind of terrifying.
But epic at the same time.
Like, epic but terrifying.
That's a win-win. Yeah, it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. Well, let's use this opportunity to plug the Discord. If you haven't already, jump into the Discord. The link will be in the show notes. You can find us on any of the social media platforms, F1 True North. And the Discord's a ton of fun. We shoot the breeze about all things F1 all the time. The Discord has been growing and growing, which we really love. And we'd love to hear from you guys. So if you want to drop us a comment here on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening or watching to this, we appreciate it more than you know. Tell your friends that are F1 fans, because we need all the support we can get, because that helps us grow the podcast, man. So, we're here in season 3, just getting it rocking. And we look forward to seeing you guys again.
Yeah. One more tip for you guys. Anyone who has Alexa, I tried this this week. You can actually ask Alexa, play F1 True North podcast, and it finds us.
Come on. Here
We're
we are.
on Alexa.
Cool.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that?
Listen, man, you can say what you want about our podcast. We were in the top 25% of video podcasts on Spotify. And we're fighting with the Joe Rogans of the world. So the fact that we're in the top 25% of video podcasts on Spotify, I mean, we're doing something right. So you can say whatever shit you want, but we're murdering it.
Exactly. We're on. So guys, if you're listening right now, ask Alexa for F1 True North podcast.
Boom.
She will find you.
Okay,
She will
guys.
find us.
Let's do it. Have a good week.
All right, later guys.